Walk into any British pub and you'll see 20 taps lined up like soldiers, but half of them are serving absolute rubbish that's trading on nostalgia while delivering disappointment in a glass. We're exposing the 10 British beers you should avoid like a dodgy kebab and celebrating the 10 that actually deserve your hard-earned money. Some of these might shock you. Caffrey's pretends to be Irish with the name and the shamrock on the pump, but it's brewed by Molson Coors, and it's about as authentically Irish as a plastic leprechaun from a pound shop. It was everywhere in the 90s when creamy nitro beers were having their moment, but it's basically just another smooth ale that's been marketed as something exotic and different, when really it's just boring British bitter with an Irish accent. The creamy head looks impressive for about 10 seconds, then you taste it and realise there's absolutely nothing going on. No character, no hop presence, no real malt flavour, just bland inoffensive nothingness that slides down without leaving any impression whatsoever. Your dad probably tried Caffrey's when it launched in the mid-90s because the ads made it look sophisticated and different. But after one pint, he went straight back to his usual because at least his usual tasted like something. The problem with Caffrey's is that it's trying to ride on Irish beer's reputation without actually being Irish or being good, and nowadays you can barely find it because even the big pub chains have realised nobody actually wants it. If you're going to drink a creamy nitro beer, drink Guinness. At least that's the real deal. Caffrey's is just marketing wrapped around disappointment. Tennent's regular lager is perfectly acceptable. We'll get to that. But Tennent's Super is what you get when you take that drinkable beer and pump it full of extra alcohol until it becomes something else entirely. It's 9% strength, which means it's not for drinking, it's for getting absolutely wrecked as quickly and cheaply as possible. Every corner shop sells it, usually to blokes who've given up or students who don't know any better. And it tastes like someone dissolved aspirin in regular Tennent's and called it an improvement. This is super strength lager territory, the stuff that's caused so much social problems that some shops won't stock it anymore. Your dad never drank this because back in his day, if you wanted to get drunk quickly, you just drank more pints. You didn't need some laboratory-created rocket fuel that tastes like cleaning products. If you're drinking Tennent's Super, you're not drinking for pleasure, you're drinking to forget, and that's a road that doesn't end well for anyone. Skol still exists, though you'd be forgiven for thinking it died sometime around 1995, along with Britpop and optimism about New Labour. It's another one of those cheap lagers that used to be everywhere. Every pub, every off-licence, every working men's club, and now it's been relegated to the bottom shelf where it belongs. The taste is somehow both watery and unpleasant at the same time, like someone tried to make beer out of pond water and gave up halfway through. It used to have funny ads with talking bears or something. But even the best marketing in the world can't disguise the fact that what's in the can is absolutely awful. Skol is what your dad drank when even Carling was too expensive, and that should tell you everything. It's the beer you bought when you were genuinely skint and needed something alcoholic to get through the weekend. But nowadays there are better options at the same price point. If you're still drinking Skol in 2025, you're either stuck in 1985 or you've got shares in the company. Either way, it's time to move on to literally anything else. Now this one's controversial, so hear me out. When Punk IPA launched in 2007, it was revolutionary. Genuinely exciting beer that tasted different to everything else on the bar, and it helped kickstart the craft beer revolution in Britain. But somewhere along the way, BrewDog got massive, went corporate despite claiming they hadn't, and the beer changed. Current Punk IPA tastes nothing like it did 15 years ago. It's weaker, blander, and has lost most of what made it special in the first place. They've chased volume at the expense of quality, exactly what they claimed they'd never do. Your son probably drinks Punk IPA thinking he's being alternative and rebellious, but he's actually drinking beer made by a company that's now worth hundreds of millions and acts exactly like the big brewers they supposedly stood against. The beer itself isn't terrible. It's just disappointing, and in some ways that's worse than being honestly rubbish like Carling. BrewDog became everything they said they hated, and Punk IPA is the evidence. If you want proper craft beer, there are hundreds of better options from breweries that haven't sold their souls. John Smith's Extra Smooth is what happened when Yorkshire Bitter got neutered for mass appeal, smoothed out until it had almost no character whatsoever. The ads with Peter Kay were absolutely brilliant. Everyone remembers, no nonsense, but the beer itself is the definition of boring, safe, and utterly forgettable. It's smooth at the expense of everything else. No real bitterness, no hop character, no complexity, just a vaguely malty, creamy pint that slides down easy and disappears from your memory even quicker. Old blokes still drink it because it's what they've always drunk, and changing beer is like changing football teams, but that doesn't make it good. The real tragedy is that John Smith's used to be proper cask-conditioned Yorkshire Bitter before the big brewers got hold of it, and turned it into this sanitised widget beer for people who don't actually like the taste of beer. Your dad probably switched to Extra Smooth in the 90s when it was everywhere and advertised relentlessly, and he's been drinking it ever since out of habit, rather than enjoyment. There are so many better Yorkshire bitters available now, Black Sheep, Timothy Taylor's, even Tetley's, that sticking with Extra Smooth is just stubborn nostalgia for something that was never that great to begin with. Despite the name, Greene King IPA is not an India Pale Ale. It's not even particularly Indian or pale. It's a standard bitter that's been marketed as IPA because that sounds more interesting than mediocre brown beer. And it's one of the most disappointing pints you can order in a British pub. Greene King owns thousands of pubs across the country, which means IPA is everywhere by default rather than merit. And they've got such a stranglehold on the tied house system that many pubs have no choice but to serve it. The beer itself tastes like they started with a decent recipe and then removed everything interesting to save money. It's thin, watery, slightly metallic, and utterly charmless. Your dad probably drank Greene King IPA in a village pub somewhere because it was literally the only bitter on tap, and he told himself it was alright even though he knew deep down it wasn't. The problem is that Greene King makes excellent beer. Abbot Ale is genuinely world class, but they save all the quality for their premium brands and phone it in with IPA. It's pub beer for pubs that don't care what they serve, and if you're drinking it by choice rather than necessity, you need to have a word with yourself. If you're enjoying this journey through British beer, or if you're getting angry because we've just slagged off your favourite, hit that subscribe button now. We've got 10 more beers to cover, and trust me, the next 5 will surprise you. Budweiser is American, everyone knows that, but the version we get in Britain is brewed under licence by AB InBev, and it's somehow even worse than the American original, which is already pretty awful. It's watery, tasteless, and exists purely because of massive marketing budgets and World Cup sponsorships that convince people it's worth drinking. The ads used to have those talking frogs and what's up and all that, which was funny for about 5 minutes in 1999, but the beer itself has never been funny, interesting, or worth the money they charge for it. Blokes drink Budweiser because they've seen it in American films and think it makes them sophisticated, when actually it makes them look like they've never tasted proper beer. Your dad never drank Budweiser because he grew up when British beer was British, and American imports were viewed with proper suspicion, and he was absolutely right to be suspicious. There are dozens of better lagers available at every pub. Even Bloody Carling tastes more like actual beer than Budweiser. If you want American beer culture, at least drink something good. If you want British beer, drink British beer. Budweiser is neither. It's just expensive marketing with some alcohol in it. Whitbread Best Bitter is the ghost of British brewing past. A once great beer that's been killed by corporate mergers and now barely exists except in a few sad pubs that haven't updated their beer list since 1987. Whitbread the company sold out, broke up, and abandoned brewing entirely. But somehow this zombie beer still staggers on in keg form, tasting like a faint memory of what British bitter used to be. If you find it on tap, it's been sitting in those lines for months, possibly years, and it'll taste like it, stale, flat, and sad. It's not even bad enough to be memorably awful. It's just depressingly mediocre, a reminder of how much we've lost. Your dad and your granddad both probably drank Whitbread back when it was everywhere, and reasonably good, which makes trying it now even more depressing because you can taste the decline of British brewing in every flat, lifeless sip. The fact that it still exists at all is more about inertia than quality. pubs that can't be bothered to change their beer lines, punters who order it out of habit, and nobody caring enough to put it out of its misery. Avoid Whitbread not because it's offensively bad, but because drinking it is like visiting a loved one in a nursing home who doesn't recognise you anymore. It's just sad. Carling calls itself Britain's #1 lager, which is like McDonald's calling itself Britain's #1 restaurant. Popular doesn't mean good, it just means it's everywhere and cheap. Every Wetherspoons and working men's club has it on tap, and blokes drink it because it's cold and gets you drunk, not because it tastes of anything worth remembering. It's fizzy yellow water with just enough alcohol to justify calling it beer, and the only thing it's got going for it is that it won't break the bank when you're 10 pints deep on a Friday night. Your dad probably drank Carling in the 80s because it was half the price of proper beer, and you're probably drinking it now for exactly the same reason. But here's the truth. There are dozens of better lagers at similar prices, and life's too short to drink something that tastes like it was filtered through a gym sock. Carling exists to get drunk on, not to enjoy, and if you're drinking it for the taste, you're only fooling yourself. Foster's pretends to be Australian, waves the flag, uses the accent in the ads, but it's brewed in Manchester, and actual Australians wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. It's the beer equivalent of those British tourists who go to Benidorm and call it Spain. Technically accurate, but fundamentally dishonest. The taste is watery, metallic, and disappears the moment it hits your throat, leaving nothing behind except regret and a slightly queasy feeling. Blokes drink it at barbecues because someone bought a crate from Tesco, and birds drink it because it doesn't taste too beery, which tells you everything you need to know. The ads used to be brilliant back in the 90s with Paul Hogan and all that, but funny advertising can't disguise the fact that what's in the can is basically alcoholic tap water with a fancy label. If you're actively choosing Foster's over literally anything else at the bar, you've either got no money left or you've destroyed your taste buds with years of punishment. There's cheap beer that's drinkable, and then there's Foster's. Now we're talking proper beer. Timothy Taylor's Landlord is Yorkshire's gift to British brewing. A premium pale ale that's won Champion Beer of Britain more times than anything else, and every single award is absolutely deserved. It's perfectly balanced, hoppy but not overpowering, malty but not sweet, strong enough at 4.3% to be satisfying but dangerously drinkable. Blokes who know their beer will travel miles to find pubs that serve Landlord properly, and once you've had it in perfect condition, every other beer seems slightly disappointing by comparison. This is what British beer should taste like when it's brewed with care by people who actually give a damn. Your dad discovered Landlord in a proper Yorkshire pub sometime in the 80s, and it probably changed his life. Suddenly beer could be interesting, complex, and absolutely delicious, rather than just fuel for getting drunk. Timothy Taylor's is one of the few British breweries that's never sold out, never compromised, never chased volume at the expense of quality, and you can taste that integrity in every pint. It's not cheap, it's not everywhere, and when you do find it, the pub needs to look after it properly. But when all those stars align, Landlord is as close to perfection as British beer gets. Fuller's London Pride is probably the most famous British beer in the world, and it's earned that reputation by being consistently excellent for 50-odd years without ever selling out or compromising. It's beautifully balanced amber ale with a biscuity malt backbone, gentle hop bitterness, and that distinctive Fuller's yeast character that's impossible to describe but unmistakable once you've tasted it. Your dad probably drank it in London pubs in the 70s and 80s, and you're probably drinking it now when you want something proper. That's heritage and quality you can actually taste. London Pride is everywhere now. Every pub, every supermarket, even airports, and familiarity might breed contempt in some people, but it absolutely shouldn't. This is genuinely world-class beer that happens to be widely available, and that's something to celebrate rather than criticise. It's strong enough at 4.7% to be satisfying, flavourful enough to be interesting, but balanced enough to drink all session long without getting bored or hammered. The fact that Fuller's remains independent and family-owned while producing beer this good at this scale is genuinely remarkable, and London Pride is the proof that British brewing can compete with anything in the world. Harvey's Sussex Best is brewed in Lewes using the same Victorian tower brewery and traditional methods they've used since 1790, and you can taste that 200-year continuity in every single sip. It's perfectly balanced, 4%, chestnut brown, hoppy and malty in equal measure, with a long dry finish that's distinctively Harvey's and nothing else. This is what British beer tasted like before the Industrial Revolution homogenised everything, before the big brewers took over and ruined it, before quality became an afterthought to profit. Blokes in Sussex have been drinking Harvey's all their lives. Their dads drank it, their granddads drank it, and that's heritage you can't fake or buy. Harvey's remains independent, family-owned, and utterly committed to brewing proper beer properly, using methods that bigger breweries abandoned decades ago because they're expensive and difficult. Sussex Best has won every award going, but more importantly, it's the beer that locals drink every single day because it's consistently excellent and hasn't changed in generations. Your dad probably discovered Harvey's on a trip to Brighton or Lewis and spent the rest of his life wishing he could get it locally. That's the effect proper beer has on you. You're drinking living history when you drink Harvey's, and if you've never tried it, you're missing out on one of Britain's genuine treasures. Black Sheep was founded in 1992 by Paul Theakston after his family brewery was sold to a massive conglomerate, and that rebellious independent spirit runs through every single pint they brew. Best bitter is proper Yorkshire Ale, 4.4%. Copper-coloured, beautifully balanced between malt sweetness and hop bitterness, with a dry finish that makes you immediately want another sip. They still use Yorkshire Square fermenters, traditional equipment that bigger breweries abandoned decades ago because it's expensive, difficult, and requires actual skill. But it makes better beer, and Black Sheep refuses to compromise. Your dad might have discovered Black Sheep when it launched, and felt like he was supporting the underdog against the corporate giants. And 30 years later, that underdog is still independent, still brewing brilliant beer, and still refusing to sell out. Best Bitter represents everything that's good about British brewing: independence, quality, tradition, an absolute refusal to take shortcuts or chase easy money. It's won awards, it's won respect, and it's won the loyalty of blokes who want proper British beer brewed properly by people who actually care. If you're not drinking Black Sheep, you're missing out on one of the great British brewing success stories. Marston's Pedigree is Burton bitter brewed, using the Burton Union system. Massive oak barrels connected by pipes in a setup that looks like something from a Victorian steampunk novel. And you can taste that heritage and craftsmanship in every sip. It's distinctively hoppy, with a slight sulphur note that comes from Burton's famous hard water. And while that sulphur character isn't for everyone, for blokes who grew up drinking proper bitter, Pedigree is absolutely the real deal. This is what bitter tasted like before the big brewers smoothed it out and made it boring. Before focus groups and marketing departments got involved, before quality became negotiable. Your dad probably drank Pedigree in the 70s and 80s, when it was everywhere and reliably excellent. And if you can find it on cask in a pub that looks after it properly, it's still genuinely world class. The problem is that Pedigree in bottles or dodgy pubs can be disappointing, and the quality varies more than it should. But when it's right, it's absolutely stunning. Complex, characterful, proper grown-up beer for people who drink for taste, rather than just getting drunk. Marston's has been brewing in Burton since 1834, and Pedigree proves they've learned a thing or two in those nearly 200 years. Adnams Ghost Ship is a relatively new beer, only been around since 2011, but it's already become a modern classic, proving that British brewing innovation didn't die in the 19th century. It's a pale ale at 4.5%, brewed with American hops that give it a citrusy, tropical character that's different to traditional British bitters, but still distinctively British in approach and balance. The name comes from a local legend about a phantom ship off the Suffolk coast, which is proper British storytelling married to proper British brewing. And the beer itself is absolutely brilliant. Refreshing, flavourful, complex enough to be interesting, but easy drinking enough to session. Your son probably discovered Ghost Ship when he got bored of boring lagers but wasn't quite ready for full-on craft beer. And it's the perfect gateway into better beer. Interesting without being intimidating. Flavourful without being overwhelming. Adnams has been brewing in Southwold since 1872, which means Ghost Ship combines 150 years of brewing expertise with modern hop varieties and techniques, giving you the best of both worlds. It's everywhere now. Most pubs stock it, every supermarket sells it. And unlike most beers that go mainstream, Ghost Ship has kept its quality and hasn't been watered down for mass appeal. Shepherd Neame Spitfire was launched in 1990 to commemorate the Battle of Britain's 50th anniversary, and it's proper Kentish ale with history and heritage in every pint. It's 4.5%, amber-coloured, with a distinctive hoppy character that comes from using Kentish hops grown in the same fields for generations, combined with rich malt flavours that give it proper body and substance. The name and the RAF imagery on the pump clip could easily be gimmicky, but the beer backs it up. This is genuinely excellent British bitter that happens to have patriotic branding rather than patriotic branding, with mediocre beer behind it. Your dad probably tried Spitfire when it launched, and was pleasantly surprised that commemorative beer could actually be good rather than just marketing rubbish. And it's been a staple of British pubs ever since. Shepherd Neame is Britain's oldest brewery. They've been brewing in Faversham since 1698, which means they know what they're doing, and Spitfire proves it. It's widely available, consistently good, and represents proper British brewing heritage without being stuck in the past. If you want beer that tastes distinctively British but isn't boring or old-fashioned, Spitfire is exactly what you're looking for. Theakston Old Peculier is proper Yorkshire strong ale, 5.6%, and it's been brewed in Masham since 1890 using the same recipe and the same bloody-minded Yorkshire attitude that nothing should be easy or simple. It's dark, rich, almost treacly, with flavours of dark fruit, chocolate and toffee, and it's not a session beer. Too strong, too rich, too intense, but a couple of pints on a cold winter evening is pure Yorkshire magic. The name comes from the Peculier of Masham, a medieval ecclesiastical court, which tells you everything about how seriously Yorkshire takes both its history and its beer. Your dad probably discovered Old Peculier in a proper Yorkshire pub and realised that beer could be dark, strong and complex, rather than just pale and fizzy, and it probably changed his drinking habits forever. This isn't beer for getting drunk quickly, it's beer for savouring, thinking about, appreciating properly, like a good whiskey or wine. Theakston had a rough time when they were bought by Scottish and Newcastle in the 80s, but they're independent again now, and Old Peculier is back to its best. If you've never tried it, you're missing out on one of Britain's great strong ales, and if you only know the bottled version, find it on cask because that's when it really sings. Bath Ale's gem is relatively modern. The brewery only started in 1995, but it's already established itself as one of the Southwest's best bitters, proving that great British brewing didn't end with the Victorians. It's a premium bitter at 4.1%, golden and beautifully balanced, with floral hop notes and a clean malt backbone that makes it dangerously drinkable. It's won multiple awards, it's loved by locals and visitors alike, and it represents the best of modern British brewing, respecting tradition while not being imprisoned by it, creating beer that's excellent without being showy or pretentious. Your son probably discovered Gem at a pub in Bath or Bristol and was surprised that a relatively new beer could taste this good, this authentic, this proper. Bath Ales got bought by St Austell Brewery in 2016, which could have been a disaster, but St Austell are decent independent brewers who've let Bath Ales keep doing what they do best. Gem proves that great British beer isn't just about ancient breweries with centuries of history. It's about brewing excellent beer with care and expertise. Regardless of when you started, if you're in the Southwest and not drinking Gem, you're actively choosing wrong. Hobgoblin is Whitbread Brewery's Ruby Ale, strong at 5.2%, and it's the beer that introduced a generation of British blokes to the idea that beer could be dark, strong, interesting, and still widely available. It launched in the mid-90s when the craft beer movement was just starting, and that distinctive Goblin label made it stand out on the bar when everything else was boring brown pumps with forgettable names. It's got rich toffee and chocolate notes, a slight sweetness balanced by hop bitterness, and enough character to make you actually think about what you're drinking, rather than just pouring it down your neck. Your son probably discovered Hobgoblin in a Wetherspoons, and realised that even in Wetherspoons you could drink interesting beer, which is genuinely important for getting young people into proper beer rather than just lager. Yes, Hobgoblin is now owned by Marston's, and it's lost some of its original outsider credibility, but the beer itself is still good, still interesting, still worth drinking. It represents that crucial moment in British beer culture when people started realising there was more to life than smooth, bitter and premium lager. And even though the revolution's moved on, Hobgoblin deserves respect for helping start it. That's it. 10 beers to avoid like a dodgy curry, and 10 absolute classics that prove British brewing is still world class. If this made you thirsty, angry or nostalgic, hit that subscribe button and watch the next video on screen where we rank something else that'll get you arguing down the pub. Cheers!